Ray in Tanzania. They're one of the last folk cultures in Europe and they're fighting hard for their preservation. The Seto people's ancestral home falls on the disputed border between Estonia and Russia, a division which is threatening to destroy their community forever. Simon Harris travelled to Estonia to find out more about their unique way of life.
The city of Tallinn. This historic trading port on the Baltic Sea is the capital of Estonia. Like many cities, it's a contrast of old and new, but with the telltale suburbs of drab Soviet-era housing blocks, a reminder of decades of forced migration from countryside to city. Despite appearances here in the Old Town, Tallinn has a reputation for being a tech city at the forefront of the digital revolution, a Baltic Silicon Valley. But 200 miles from here, there is a small and unique community trying to cling to the past and fearing for the future. And that's where I'm heading now. My journey will take me south from the Baltic to a region which straddles the Russian border, a land called Setomaa, which for hundreds of years has been home to one of Europe's last surviving ethnic folk communities. These people are Setos. They have their own language, religion and customs. Today there are just a few thousand still living in Setomaa. In the wooden church in the small village of Obenitsa, the regular congregation is made up of a handful of local worshippers. But in a matter of hours, the church will become a magnet for hundreds of Setos, drawn from across Estonia and even Russia. I've come to Obenitsa because tomorrow these Estonian Setos will celebrate the most important day in their religious calendar. Not just with a service in the church over there, but also with a huge open-air feast here in the cemetery, literally on the graves of their ancestors. The party begins with a procession from the church. Seto religion is a mixture of Orthodox and pagan ritual. In some communities, eating and drinking in a churchyard might seem disrespectful. But here, the dead in their graves are honoured guests at the feast. Tell me about your feast. What have you prepared here?
Everything that is in the garden. Apples and cucumbers and tomatoes and stuff.
And it's about sharing it as well with the ancestors who are...
Yes, we always leave something for them also when we leave.
What will they get today?
I think some meatballs and something to drink also.
Helen Kulvik is an expert on Seto culture.
Today is much more important than Christmas. Everyone tries to take their day off from work and come here to take part in this special feast with their families, but also with their dead ancestors.
For many Setos, the annual pilgrimage to Obenitsa is sacred. But in the 21st century, this is a culture struggling to survive.
The most important threat is the loss of language. As far as media, television, newspapers, books, school, education, everything is in Estonian. So people obviously use Estonian when speaking to each other.
The traditional language has become even less relevant with the move of more and more Setos to other parts of Estonia.
No küllaltki, sellepärast et kuna meie kogu inimesed liiguvad ju majanduses sõltuvad, et raha on muutunud nagu uueks jumalaks ja uued kirikud on siis kaubamajad.
Like many families here, the Laanemaas have moved away, in their case to Tallinn, but they still return for the feast.
These people who are resting here, it's very important that their grave is not empty on these days. I think that they know that it's not empty. I don't celebrate all these local days. They have very many days to celebrate the Setos, the party all the time, I think.
Setomaa is farming country. The drift of families from rural communities to the towns and cities of Estonia and Russia began in Soviet times and continues today. But migration and the 21st century aren't the only threat to the Seto's way of life. For centuries, Seto farmers relied on a network of roads and tracks. But 25 years ago, barriers like this began to appear. Beyond them is a forbidden territory of no man's land, marking the border between Estonia and Russia. In 1991, Estonia finally broke free from the iron grip of Moscow. For the people of Setomaa, the new border between the two countries became very real.
The border has broken the land of Setos into two. It is like an iron curtain, really, because it is the state border, but it is nowadays also the border of European Union, and it's really border between two totally different worlds. For Setos themselves, it means they cannot go freely around to their homeland anymore.
Near the tiny hamlet of Potmotsa, Estonian Setomaa and Russian Setomaa are divided by a border in the middle of a river. This is where I met Arne Leima, the Seto's elected leader, officially called the Chief Herald, but sometimes referred to as the King of the Setos.
Behind us, this village called Kulje, and here the village called Potmotsa. Before they are as one village, one community, but last 25 years border is running here, and these villages are divided.
From her garden, May Rumask can see her church. It used to be just a few hundred metres away across a bridge. Thanks to the border, going to church now involves a journey of almost 100 kilometres through an official checkpoint.
No muidugi, sellepärast me käisime ju selle rahvaga hästi läbi. Kui neil oli midagi, tulid siia. Meil oli midagi, läksime sinna jälle. Sellepärast, et nüüd ei ole enam nii vaba.
More recently, Estonia's historic links with its neighbour have felt the impact of EU trade sanctions imposed on Putin's Russia after the invasion of Crimea. For Setos, friction between Europe and Russia is another cause for concern. How much does Russia worry you?
When there are some news about what Russia is about to do or some sanctions, it comes nearer, and it sometimes worries me.
Our relatives live 1 kilometer from the border. It's more their problem, but of course it concerns us.
Gradually, the Seto's traditional way of life is vanishing. What it means to be Seto is changing.
Maybe not wearing national clothes, maybe Seto language is not so clean, but the soul will be Seto.
That might be the Seto's best hope. Official figures suggest of the 10,000 Setos in Estonia, barely a third now live in their traditional homeland. But whatever the future, Setos will always be drawn together to eat, drink and party.